I am so pleased to be working with Austin Pedal Cars on this project. Their help and support along the way is going to be so helpful. If you have got a pedal car or you're restoring one yourself and you need any parts for it at all, click on the link in the description below, visit their website and you'll be amazed. They've put a huge amount of effort into reproducing anything you could ever need for these beautiful little pedal cars. Let's get into the video. Welcome to another video. Thank you so much for joining us again. And it's time. As you may have guessed, from the title, we're starting a new project. I bought this little J40 literally how many years ago? 4 years, maybe more. It's been hanging on the wall in the workshop. No doubt you've seen it in the back of the shop for years. Now it's the time. Whoa, it's big, isn't it? I don't want to see any comments saying, why aren't you doing the Porsche? Why aren't you doing the Porsche? Trust me, I want to be doing the Porsche as much as you. I'm desperate to get the Porsche done, but I'm waiting for some panels to turn up from America. They're from Trevor's Hammerworks again. They're beautiful panels. I can't wait to get them. They'll be here very soon. And as soon as they are, I'll let you guys know and we'll be back on it. But until then, let's do the J40. If you don't know what these cars are, they are a pedal car for children, made by Austin, the car manufacturer. This one is 1965, I think, or early 60s. They made them using offcuts of steel from the manufacturing of the full-size cars. They actually employed ex-miners that had a lot of them got lung conditions and horrible things happened to them. And it was a lovely thing that Austin did where they employed them, gave them a job, gave them a chance again to earn some money by making these beautiful little things. I've wanted one for years and years. I've no use for it. I have no kids, no one to fit in it, but I just think they're iconic. Part of the reason why they're so iconic is they have a race at Goodwood Revival, the Dissecting Cup. It's quite often the people racing the full-size cars, kids or grandkids, end up in a matching one of these. And it's so competitive. It's awesome. Having a little J40 race at Goodwood Revival is as prestigious as having a car race at Goodwood Revival. And they have just made the after sales of these go through the roof. And it's very similar to the Porsche. I cannot afford a full-size one. There is a company now, which we'll introduce you to later on down the line of this restoration project, where they sell restored Austin J40s, and they are beautifully restored. You can buy them from them with any different condition. You can get a nice original paint one that's been restored underneath, a fully rebuilt one that's been completely painted and redone, anything you want. So I think I'll be in safe hands when it comes to ordering parts and getting materials and things from them. I've got a feeling that 8,000 to 10,000 to buy one done, we're not going to be far off. Maybe I should count the hours. Let me know in the comments if you want to see a breakdown of what's actually involved to get this wreck turned into a beautifully restored J40. I can't wait. I'm so excited. I looked at it from afar whilst it's been up on the wall, but having got it down now with John, it's worse than I remember. There's some real horrible rust in there. It's not like nice rusty sort of surface patinery rust. It is just rot. I've got so much work to do. And you know what's going to happen first? I'm going to take this and get it sandblasted, because very much like the Porsche, I need to see what I'm working with. I can already see there's lumps of filler in this. So it's been painted before multiple times. We need to get all of that out the way, removed, just be left with a bare shell. It's terrifying because very much like the Porsche, I don't know what I'm going to be left with, and I've got a fear that it's going to be very little, but I need to know. I'm going to have to manufacture and make all of the pieces for this, because I can't just, like I'm doing with the Porsche, buy the back end and buy the engine bay panel. I can't buy anything for this. So I'm going to have to make all of it. Right, the J40 coming soon. We're going to have to talk about colour at some point, but not yet. One thing at a time, one thing at a time. Let's get this to Justin at Penfold Metallising in Chichester, who's just down the road from the repair shop. He can blast away all of this rust and paint and flaky mess and filler, and we'll see what we're really working with. It's quite a stressful first episode. Considering the blasting process is such an industrial process, and these guys have got it on a big scale, I quite often give them pieces from the repair shop to blast. This is where they come, and they can be quite gentle. I mean, this is going to be a bit of a special case because it is really rusty. I did debate acid dipping this because we've had that whole debate with sort of chemical dipping versus blasting for the Porsche, so I thought it would be quite nice to show sort of acid dipping on this body, but I just have such good luck with blasting. It always leaves such a nice finish and it just works, so we're back to blasting. But anybody out there that does acid dipping in Kent, let me know. Maybe the rest of the components, the boot and the other bits, we could try acid dipping. We'll see how we go. Blimey, I'm very nervous. I am genuinely nervous about this. The more I look at this shell, the more I'm terrified. But hey, let's do it. Oh dear. I know it wasn't great and I know it was going to be bad, but this sucks. This is like another mini Porsche. I really am thinking now this may be too far gone. I mean, every single panel needs replacing or another piece making, or like the whole wing, the front panel, the bumper bracket at the front is completely gone. Everywhere I look, inside, the little side supports by the handbrake lever, that's been welded before. It's had loads of patch panels. I can't remember what I actually paid for this thing, but it was about £600. So we can add to that £300 for the blasting. I feel like it may be too far gone. I don't know. I've got Sunday in the workshop this week, so I'm going to get it. I'll get some primer on it and I'll get it in the workshop on Sunday, and I'm going to spend the next few days having a think, making a plan. Trouble is, I don't want to just buy another one and put this one in the bin, because these things are rare. This was made in 1965. It's a cool thing. It's worth saving, but is it more work than I have time to do? I'm desperate to get back on with the Porsche and everything else that's going on. This is a bit of a sad day. Let's not give up yet. Leave it with me. Let me sleep on it. Oh dear. Repair shop's over for the week. It's now Sunday morning. The clocks have gone forward, so it's actually an hour late. I've lost an hour already, so we need to get straight to it. I've decided we're saving the car. We're not going to scrap it. How could I do that? We need to chop up some pieces of steel, weld them all together. I'll explain more in a bit. The first thing I need to do is to make some kind of jig or fixture to bolt the car to confirm that all the fixing points are in the right place. Then I will take lots of measurements, because the fixture is going to give me fixing points for axles and wheel centers and stuff like that, but there's lots of other references that I'll need for, like the height of the body, where the wheel arches sit, the angle of the wheel arches sit, which line up with the boot floor, the level of the boot floor, how high that is from the floor. So I'll make a mini select table, same as what the Porsche is fixed onto with the anchor points, but a little mini version. Then I'll take a lot of measurements and a lot of photos and a lot of drawings of all the important pieces, then chop it up. All right, so that piece of paper that I just transferred from the back pressing on the inner arch of the J40, used my dirty glove to sort of create a rubbing of the impression where the holes are, scan that in on the computer, drawn around it, extended it down a little bit, so I've got a tab at the bottom, made sure it's nice and square and nice and even. There it is, just like that. I have got to say a big thank you again to Extreme Plasma for this plasma table. It is so helpful for things like this. It's perfect. I can scribble around with some pieces of paper, draw it really simply on the computer, and in minutes I've got a piece of 5mm steel cut out exactly the shape that I want. I can weld it in place. It's awesome. If you do any kind of fabrication and building and welding and making, having one of these tables is just a game changer. Now it's here on the PC and I'm about to cut it out. Bingo. Now I'm going to zap those in place, make sure left and right are exactly in line with each other, because I can measure from the square frame that I've just made. The rear axle, the actual sort of crank pedal assembly, bolts to those 3 holes, and we will know that they are both dead in line, nice and square and horizontal with each other. I may add a little triangulation to the back of that upright, so it doesn't sort of wobble left and right, but I've got to not get carried away. This is a pedal car. It's not, I'm not making fixtures for the Porsche, a full-size car. This is literally a toy. But at the same time, I don't want things to move. I want things to be in the right place and not the whole back end will be all crooked. Okay, now I've got the rear axle sort of fixing points welded on to the jig. I need to do exactly the same for the front axle mounting points, and it gets a bit more complicated because at this point I need to set the height of the front and make absolute sure that the wheelbase basically is going to stay the same. The whole point of this sort of jig is to make sure the rear axle and the front axle stay the same distance apart and perfectly aligned. I'm making a kind of goalpost that goes up and over for the front, and the inner wings will sit on that. The whole thing will be sitting on the goalpost. It's tricky because the car is not square, so I can't really take too many measurements, critical measurements, from the car because it's all bent and twisted and not sitting flat. One side's touching, the other side is not. Because the car has had a life, it's been crashed and bent and damaged. Luckily, I do have all of the sort of running gear, the rear axle, the front axle for the car, and they're in much better shape. So I can take some critical measurements from them to make sure the holes are in the right place. I can basically measure the distance from the end of my goalpost in to there, from there to there, make sure that's the same on both sides. There we go, that is the little mini select table complete. Everything lines up as it should, with a bit of a fight, but it all lines up. I can now start chopping. I'm going to take off this side panel first, which is a little easier said than done, but there's a few bits to sort of dissect here and there. But I think if I can get this long side off, that will give me access to the boot floor and the other bits that I need to actually get out the way. Oh. Wow. Well, in no time at all, I have chopped this thing up into so many pieces and being very methodical with how I chop it up. I am just chopping it up with the angle grinder because I know I'm going to be remaking so many of these panels, and I'm chopping them up in such a way that I know where tabs end and fold, and I'm being quite cautious with how I chop them up, but I am chopping them up. So far, there's a few tricky ones that look like they're going to be quite interesting to make, but yeah, we'll get to that later. I'm almost there. I'm not going to lie, this is always quite a low point, being so financially invested in something and then having just chopped it up and taken a second to kind of step back and look at the actual sheer amount of work that there is to do. Almost every single panel I need to remake. There's a few challenges along the way. They've all got these sort of swages, these sort of bead rolled edges in them. So there's going to be some interesting metal shaping going on. Might be quite fun to go down and make them with Jeff, but I'd much rather replace them for original metal. Anybody out there that has got one of these that's knackered, I'd love a side panel, a front wing, the side, the rear arch, anything like that. There is one on eBay that's been cut in half, but it looks as rusty as this. The next thing to do is really just to pick up a piece from the pile, start templating, making some templates, paper templates, cutting some sheet metal out, folding, manipulating and making new pieces, one piece at a time. And then start piecing them together on my jig until we can actually start spot welding pieces together. Very, very similar construction to the Porsche, but 100 times easier. Like each panel is held together with like 4 spot welds, if that, but it makes it a lot easier for me to get it apart. So now I just need to remake some panels. As ever, please leave us a comment. I really appreciate it. As you've seen, we've got to 100,000 followers. Thank you very, very much, everybody. I appreciate all the support. It's amazing. Really, it's a landmark for us, for myself and Dan. We're over the moon. So thank you so much. I'm ready for bed. I'll see you next week.